We are live, live from Melbourne, Australia. We are actually here at a co-working station. About to spend the day with one of our clients here in Melbourne, and we have the live stream to do. Well, actually, we were going to do a webinar today, but my team asked me if I could do this particular one as a live stream and share it with everybody because it's such a powerful and important part of the work that we do, and something that is really one of the hottest topics around in strategy at the moment, which is all about objectives and key results. So my team said, can we do this one live? We did do the last one live as well, and it was really great to be able to provide that. So here we are, live in Melbourne, and in the quiet space here at the co-working station, the co-working offices that we're at here. Phenomenal facility. I'll tag them in the at the end of the live stream. But we're here to talk about the hottest topic that's on the market when it comes to strategy these days, and that's objectives and key results. Now, OKRs they've been around for a long time, actually. We'll go through the history of OKRs in a moment. But it's really to understand that they've been around for a while, but they're really starting to get or find their place in the world. And there's a lot of reasons why. And we're going to go through that in this session. We're going to talk about, why OKRs, where they all came from, and then why we use OKRs. We've been using them at Circle Leadership now for over 5 years, and with all our clients and in our own business. And all the things that we've learned along the way, and all the things that we weren't told that were in the books about OKRs when they first came out. So I'm going to share all those little secrets that we've learned along the way and how to leverage them for your small business or small to medium-sized business to make sure that it works for you. Because it's not just for the Apples and Googles of the world. Us in small business or small to medium-sized enterprises can be using them too. So we're going to go through all that in today's live stream. If anyone jumps on and puts any comments in, we'll answer those. If you have any questions along the way, I'll be answering those. So please feel free to jump in, and let's make this as interactive as possible for those of you who jump on and participate. But for now, let's get started. Let's talk about OKRs. So let's bring this up here. So this session is really, it's all about all the stuff they didn't tell you, right? Because there's a lot of things that you can, as I alluded to earlier, you can read in the books and everything like that about objectives and key results and measure what matters and what matters most, and radical focus. There's a whole bunch of amazing books that talk about the concept of OKRs. But there's a bunch of things in there that they're not telling us that we've learned along the way. And I want to share those secrets with you in this live stream. Firstly, whenever you attend any of these things online or in person, there's a tendency to think that there's going to be a sales pitch at the end of this. So let's get the sales pitch out of the way. The sales pitch is very simple here. What I want you to understand, I just want to move the screen here. The sales pitch that I would like to make to you is simply this. There's 3 things I'd like you to buy today. One is the need to do this, is you really should be looking at this as a strategy for your organization. Number 2 is that there are tools and resources available to you to help you to do that. And number 3, if you need help with that, then there's people like ourselves who are willing to help you with those things. So one thing to buy is that this is a really great strategy or a methodology for your organization. Number 2, that there are tools, lots of tools and resources available to you. And number 3, if you need help, there's people out there who are willing to help you with this. Right? That's the sales pitch. So let's get that out of the way, and let's move on to actually getting into some of the exciting stuff. First thing I want to share with you is that I really believe, why OKRs at this time, and why are they becoming the hottest thing in the market in terms of strategy at the moment? Well, that's fundamentally because we are in our generation's most uncertain of times. I mean, every generation's had their own levels of uncertainty, but this is our generation's most uncertain of times. So predictability in the past, you would have 10 years of this, 10 years of that, 10 years of that. Well, predictability now is out the window, but that should make this the most exciting of times. And like, Dave, why would this uncertainty be the most exciting of times? Well, if you understand the principle that there's limited opportunity and predictability, but there's tremendous opportunity and uncertainty, because nobody has a clue how it's supposed to be done anymore, or how it's supposed to be done. So you can go and create whatever you want and do it whatever way you like. And this is a great opportunity for new ideas to be born into the world at this time, and things we've never thought about in the past, because everything is so uncertain. But also in this thing, when you're thinking about your strategy and moving forward into that uncertain world, we need to really be thinking about we can't predict in terms of what's going to happen in the next 3 years or the next 1 year or even in the next 90 days. We could take a wild ass guess about that. But the old way of doing strategy in that predictable world worked fine. But in a new world, you need a new way to do your strategy. So not only do you need a new strategy, but you have a new way of thinking about strategy. And that's what we want to talk about through this session here is how do we create a new way of thinking about strategy and a new strategy at the same time so that you can evolve and stay relevant. Because based on Darwin theories, if you wish, that the species that survives is not the fastest, the fittest, the most smartest species. It's the one that's able to adapt and adjust. And I just put this in here into its ever-changing environment in which it finds itself. It's not just in the environment which it finds itself in, but in our world now, it's an ever-changing environment. So the species that will survive, or the business that will survive, is the one that's best able to adapt and adjust, tweak and adjust along the way to its ever-changing environment. And you're going to find yourself in an ever-changing environment. Things are going to happen. If you thought the rate of change was crazy now, wait till you see what the next 10 years is going to look like. So these things need to be taken into consideration when we're thinking about the strategic way to build our organizations into this uncertain future. Because there's one thing I can assure you, and that is that isness is the death of your business, right? This was actually one of my earliest sclerisms from way back in the day that, people say, oh, Dave, you don't understand how it is in our industry. Dave, you don't understand how it is in our business. And I'm like, thankfully, because then I'm not going to be locked into thinking this is the only way it can be done. Because isness is the death of your business. So if you have people saying that about your business or about your industry, be very cautious because it could be the end is near. So let's talk about OKRs. So why OKRs? And here's the historical, I'll bring this up a bit bigger on the screen for you guys. Here is the historical journey of OKRs. So Peter Drucker, he developed management by objectives way back in the 1950s. And it was a very popular methodology for working in organization strategy. Then Andy Grove used MBOs, or management by objectives, to develop objectives and key results system for Intel, and that was in the late 60s. So the Andy Grove kind of took what Peter Drucker done and advanced it to now what is OKRs. Then John Doerr started working with Intel and took over the OKR method. And then he's gone and introduced it to, so that was in the mid 70s. He introduced it then to the guys at Google, and they established their OKR methodology. And then OKRs are now recognized as the key factor in success in many companies, as you can see, that use OKRs today. So this has been this long journey through here. Now, through to 2018. Now, we started using OKRs at the tail end of 2017, early 2018 at Circle Leadership. I'd just seen a whole bunch of stuff on it, and I was looking for a new strategy or new methodology for our organization that we wanted to build to evolve into the future and to stay relevant. And this is before a pandemic and craziness hit the world. I just wanted to have a methodology for our business to constantly help it to evolve and stay relevant. And so we looked at OKRs, and we'll share with you why then we chose OKRs as our methodology for that, because how it does work in a evolution process for your business. So that's the history. So it's gone back to like 1950s. And if you look at the birth of OKRs, it was the late 60s. So shameless to say, but OKRs is about as old as I am. So because they started back in 1968, and I was born just a little before that. So they've been around for a while. The fundamentals of OKRs, and the reason why people use them is because they're simple, they're agile, they're transparent, and they help you to be ambitious. And the ambitious part is the really important component here, because it's really where it differs slightly from goal setting is you want to stretch. You set ambitious objectives and key results for your organization. The shoot for the stars, and if you miss, you'll land on the moon kind of a concept. But it's there, so we want to make sure that our OKRs are ambitious. We also want to make sure they're transparent, so everybody can see what everybody's working on. They want to see what the organization's objectives and key results are, and that you have an alignment of all the objectives in the organization. And then agility, of course, because then objectives, what it allows us to do is freedom to move, and with the times, with the market, you can have short-term OKRs, long-term OKRs. Your ability to move with it and be flexible and nimble is really powerful when you're using OKRs. We are able to adjust ours every 90 days. We can adjust them sooner if we want to, but every 90 days we're reassessing our objectives and key results for each quarter as we move forward. And even sometimes we'll do like a 6-week sprint of OKRs based on where the market is or the situations that may be happening. And the beauty part is that they're simple. Now, of course, if you followed Circle Leadership and the work that we do in this world, simplicity is one of our core values, which is freedom from complexity, which is another reason why we loved OKRs, because it was really simple, free from complexity type of methodology to bring into our organization. And it's been very powerful for us to help us to continue to evolve and stay relevant as we do for our clients. However, I've spoken to a lot of people who have used OKRs and they go, they don't work in our organization. And this is where it starts to get interesting, because when you think about your organization and what's in the stuff that they didn't tell you. So here's some of the things that Andy Grove and John Doerr didn't tell us in any of the books that they've written and other books on OKRs, is you can't take a new way of thinking and put it into your old way of doing. And this is what's happening. So you take this new OKR methodology and you go, wow, this is cool. This is really awesome things. And then we go put it into our old way of doing, in our old goal setting, strategic framework and hierarchy. And we're just trying to use the most modern, fancy term for goal setting for our strategy in our organization. And the people go, well, it doesn't work. These OKRs don't work. And the reason why it's working is because you're taking a new way of thinking and put it into your old way of doing, and that will not work. It doesn't matter what it is. You take an old way of thinking. It'd be like me taking my combustion car, like a car with a combustion engine in it, and try to put an electric motor in it and expecting it to work. There's a whole bunch of things I would need to change in my car for that engine now to work in my car. If I take out the old petrol-based or gasoline-based engine out and then have to put an electric engine in, car just won't work that way. I need to change a whole bunch of stuff in the car for that to work. So if I try to put a new engine into my old vehicle, the way it processed based on the old engine, it doesn't work. And it's the same thing when you're using OKRs in your organization. So some common mistakes that we find when people are implementing OKRs into their business. One is they're setting extremely unachievable OKRs. Now, there's a difference between ambition and unachievable, right? So you have to be very mindful of where the edge is on those things. There's also a lack of accountability in the organization. And when we talk about accountability at Circle Leadership, we're talking about a systematic approach to accountability. So it's an accountability system, not just saying who's answerable for things, but we need a systematic approach to accountability. The other thing is they're usually top-down driven. These will be, there's no involvement in the team in this. It's just people come down the mountain and go, here's your objectives, go do these things. People aren't involved in the work. People involved in the work aren't involved in decisions about the work. They're also very vague. They don't have any measurable things to them. They're fluffy statements. The tracking frequency on them, you find that they're too long. You have too far in between tracking. We have a fast execution meeting every week, so our tracking frequency is weekly. We actually update daily because it's on our way we're able to track our progress. We can do it right on our phones or our tablets as the things we're getting done towards our objectives and key results. But then we meet every week on a fast execution meeting to make sure that we're updating everything where it's at and keeping each other in the loop with what's happening. People also turn their OKRs just into a to-do list. And that is not good either, right? It just becomes this wishy-washy list of objectives. What we have, especially if something has become business as usual, as we steadily and progressively increase our capabilities and our capacity for greatness as we evolve, because that's evolution, things that we've increased that capabilities in that quarter, we'll take that and put it into business as usual for the next quarter. And to make sure we've started doing that now, we embed it in the next quarter, then it'll drop off the list because it's actually just something that's just the way we do things now. And then the new things in that quarter will then go onto that business as usual list. And that's about as close to a to-do list as we will get. When you start using your objectives and key results as a to-do list, it loses the power. And then the last part is they don't usually, people use it as a performance tool. Now there's some debate and argument around this is should we use link performance to OKRs? Now that's up to individual choices. But I really think that it's important to understand that if you're looking to set stretch and ambitious targets through your OKRs with that as your methodology, and then you attach performance to that, people are going to feel like they're being set up to fail. and they'll either not do it or they'll start fluffing the numbers to make it look good so that they don't want to be seen to not being performing. You can have performance KPIs outside of your objectives and key results. So there's key results, and you can have key performance indicators. You can measure your team's performance on their key performance indicators, hence KPIs. But the key results, those should be the stretch ambitious targets that we have in place. And to be very mindful how you link performance to the strategy. So I'm a big fan of KPIs as personal performance, but if you're giving your team objectives and key results and helping them to get involved in what their objectives would be, make sure you're not linking the two directly, that if their remuneration is tied to those OKRs and you're setting really ambitious ones, well, then they're going to be feeling a little bit threatened in the fact that, well, if we don't hit it, then it's going to impact my performance and I'm going to look like I'm not doing my job. Versus here's the key performance indicators that you're working on, which are awesome. And as long as you're driving these things, we think these are the things that would indicate the results will happen, and we're pushing for stretch results. The two are kept separate. The other thing here is also about having not only using OKRs as a performance tool. I'm a big fan of whatever your organizational goal setting methodology is, your organizational role setting methodology should be the same. So our team, we actually have OKRs. We have roles and responsibility templates for each position in our organization. And that is set up so that each team member has their OKRs that they're responsible for. I have mine as the Chief Evolution Officer, Lisa as the Head and Heart Coach, Jordan as our Client Concierge. We all have our own OKRs for our roles and responsibilities because we hire people to achieve outcomes, not to do a job, right? And they're separate performance indicators in terms of how well they do their job, but they're not measured on the roles and responsibility in terms of the OKRs. Those are the stretch ambitious targets. What we're measuring on is in the effort that they're putting in. So we reward people for the effort in terms of their performance, and then we look at the objectives and key results as the way to evolve the organization and us as individuals. Also, what's important is to have a performance tool. Where are you tracking all this stuff? Right? So you need to be looking at how you're going to track this, where you're going to track this information in your organization so that it, to the point earlier, where is it transparent? So the biggest mistake, though, that people make when implementing OKRs is they don't align their culture and their strategy. We need to have a culture and strategy alignment. There's the old thinking that, culture eats strategy for breakfast every day. As part of Peter Drucker again. Many of the management gurus have said it over the years that culture eats strategy for breakfast. But what if culture did not have to eat strategy for breakfast every day? What if your organization had a culture and strategy alignment where your culture and your strategy actually was born from culture, and that your culture wrapped around your strategy like a shield to protect it, like a mother protecting its child? This is the biggest mistake that people make. They don't align their culture and their strategy when implementing OKRs. Yes, you're trying to take a new way of thinking and put it in your old way of doing, but also you haven't even looked at the cultural impact, and then how do we create the culture that's in our organization that is going to be conducive to executing on this strategy. And this is the big thing that we need to learn. So in our organizations, what we need to do, we need to make sure that we have set up, let's make this bigger for you guys, is the 4 frameworks you need to have established in your business. If you want to introduce OKRs to your business, I'm very adamant that you need to have these 4 frameworks in place. And OKRs complement and create part of this process. So the 4 key frameworks you need to have in place in your organization. You must have your cultural framework defined. And that framework is your purpose, your values, and your vision. So everybody knows, why are we here? What is the problem we're passionate about solving in this world? Why does this organization matter? Why does it exist? That's the purpose. Then everyone needs to know, what are our values? How do we uniquely think about that problem we're passionate about solving in this world? What are the 4 to 6 unique thinkings that we have that guide us, that protect our purpose? So when you think, I look at our values as the guardians of our purpose. Most people look, we need to make sure that we align with your values. We look at does it reject our values? Because our values are there to protect our purpose. And it's also there to be the unique thinking of our organization. And we move beyond the common corporate rhetoric values that you'll see in most organizations. So Simon Sinek has shared with everybody stuff that we've known for many, many years, that people buy why you do what you do. But I'll assure you that your values are why they buy it from you. So when you have your values clearly defined, the unique thinking of your business. So yes, I might want to have whatever the purpose is of your organization, that problem passionately solved for me. But why would I choose your organization? And this is where your values come in. Then once you've got your values right, then you go, if we're living that purpose through the lens of our values for the next 10 years, 3,650 days in a row, what is our vision? And most organizations, when they set their vision up, they set it up as a very, what I call a selfish vision. Oh, we look forward to having, 20 circle leaderships all around the world. This is our vision. To me, that's not a vision. That's a goal or an objective. Our vision is the impact of us living our purpose every single day through the lens of our values. What is the impact that we want to have on our world? We want to see a world where every organization is led on purpose first. So can you imagine that? So we have a vision for that. And this is where it's really important, because when you have your purpose, your values, and your vision right for your organization, then we know this is the world we want to create. And here's where the link between culture and strategy happens. And then this is why OKRs now fit into this methodology. Because our mission then, in terms of our strategic framework, our mission is, who do we need to become? It's the business that we need to build to start creating that world. So we've already got our purpose, our values, and our vision clearly defined in our cultural framework there. Well, the link between vision and mission happens by going, if that's the world we see in 10 years, what's the organization we need to build in the next 3 years to start creating that world that we see? Because then in the 3 years after that, there'll be another evolution of our business and another evolution of our business as we move closer to that vision of the world that we see. So we're once again steady progressive increase of our capabilities and our capacity for greatness. So our vision is here. We go, okay, well then 3 years from now, who do we need to become to start creating that world based on who we are today? Because business is a series of evolutions. So your mission is just the next evolution of your business. So we want to make sure then, as we're going through this, that the actual mission is who we need to become as an organization to evolve and stay relevant in the hearts and minds of the people that we choose to serve. And now your mission has been born from your vision. So now we know the impact we want to have on the world. Then we go, well, our mission then is to build the business that's going to start to create that world. And that's the next evolution. That business that you need to build also, you may have to imagine a business that does not yet exist, not only to evolve and stay relevant, but to make sure that you build the business that would put your old way of doing business out of business before somebody else comes along and does it for you. We'll talk more about that in a moment. But then once we've got this, because this is what happens to many people and this is where the shift in thinking about strategy happens, because a lot of people, when they're working out their mission, it's like this 25-year-old statement that sits up on the wall, and it's just a jumbled statement. This is the way we used to do missions in the past. Even I was guilty of doing them this way until I realized that's not what a mission is. If you look at mission in military terms, it's a very short-term thing. It's like, hey, we've got this mission to perform, and then when that's done, we rest, and then we go out on another mission. And then when we do that, we rest, and all those missions add up to achieving something bigger. And in this case, the vision. So mission is just the next evolution of your business. And then this is where OKRs come in. Because what we wanted then is start forming the objectives that would show that we've become that organization. So how would we know we have become that organization? And we'll dive into that in a moment, so I'll go into more detail about that. And then those objectives then get formed. And then the performance framework then gets connected to the strategic framework. And that is then what are the key results that would show we've achieved those objectives. And then that is the percentages, numbers, and dollars. So the metrics that fit in. So here's where the metrics come in. So we have the objectives, what must be accomplished to show that we've become that. Then we go, here's how we'll know we've accomplished those things with the 3 key results that would show that we've achieved that objective. And then you've developed your performance framework, and you can do that for 3 years and for 1 year and even for 90 days. Now, the tactical framework, this part here is like, how are we going to do this? We worry about the how-to every 90 days. And the reason we do that is because I alluded to before, you don't know what's going to happen in the next 3 years. You don't know what's going to happen in the next 1 year. We can barely guess what's going to happen in the next 90 days. So to build a strategy on here's how we're going to become this organization is ludicrous, because we don't know how we're going to do it, because things can change rapidly. Nobody knew 6 months ago this thing called AI would be so prevalent in our lives and that we'd be doing it. We thought it might be years down the road, but it's here now. Things are going to be happening a lot faster. So we're only looking at how-to every 90 days. But the beauty is that how-to is totally aligned. So we have a total alignment of culture and strategy and our missions and our objectives and our key results all the way down to the how-to every quarter. And this is where we get people involved in the work, involved in decisions about the work. We delegate outcomes, not tasks, to people. And you say, you're going to tell us how we're going to do this. Because as Steve Jobs told us many years ago, hire people smarter than us, not so that we can tell them what to do, but they can tell us what to do. So then you get your tactical framework in place, and people can then actually get involved in the work and look at how we're going to do things every 90 days. In order to do that now, you need to be able to demonstrate leadership at a new level. And it's really important then, if mission is there to evolve us in our business, so we go, hey, here's the business we must become. And you go, well, hang on, me as a leader built this business. Now I'm saying this is the business we need to have. Well, then who do I need to become to lead this business? And so as the business evolves, so do we. And one of the things that you're going to need to look at is how you lead people. That has to evolve too. So it's really important to understand leadership and how we lead people, because OKRs are going to become a really big part of this, and you'll see why in a moment. But leadership's all about helping other people become the best version of themselves so they can do their life's best work while in your care and beyond, right? That's what leadership's about. You lead people and you manage resources, and people are not a resource, right? So management is the science and resources and performance, and we lead people. So OKRs are going to fit into this beautifully in a minute. So just a reminder that leadership's all about helping other people become the best version of themselves to do their life's best work while in your care and beyond. And so how do you help people? And here it says that you don't need a position or title actually to demonstrate leadership. So this way we can create all around leadership in our organization. It also says, I care about you as a human being first and employee second. And this is really important because what we're talking about is leading people, and people love a good narrative and a good story. So people love, that's why we love movies and books. We love storytelling. And this is going to become really important because OKRs is going to help you tell a better narrative and story of your business that people can buy into, and they can see themselves having a future in your business because they can see the future of the business. So leadership is going to become critical in your organization. And there's a whole bunch of things we can go through in terms of what leadership's all about. But this is human behavior and organizational behavior. I'm going to do this on the whiteboard in a minute. Let me just bring this over here. So the important thing to look at here is you need to understand human behavior and how we become who we are. So if you look at this here, success has come from our results come from our behavior comes from our attitudes, which are our habits of thinking. They've been conditioned into us through a process of spaced repetition of a bunch of inputs. I'm not going to go too deep into this because the very first workshop in the CEO series, we ran through this human behavior and organizational behavior. If you want some more information on this and you missed that, let me know and I can give you the link to to this workshop that we did probably 6 weeks ago now. And from that, we then look at organizational behavior. So I'm going to do some stuff on the whiteboard here to show you how it all works, but just understand this is human behavior. So your role as a leader is to help people become the best version of themselves to do the life's best work while in your care and beyond. In order for us to take a new way of thinking, we need to put it into a new way of doing. We need to understand how we can help people shift their thinking about the way we do things. And this what must be accomplished strategy versus a how-to. So there's a lot of shift in thinking that's required here in your organization, which is why it's so important to understand human behavior. Because if you don't understand this, you're not going to be able to help people make the shift in thinking. You might not be able to make the shift in thinking necessary to put this new way of thinking into your organization if you don't understand this process. So let me just switch to the whiteboard. Bring that up there. All right, we got the whiteboard. Awesome. All right, so I'm just going to do a shortened version of this. So if you think about this here, success, however we choose to define that for ourselves, has come from our results, as I alluded to, or the things we want to have. And those results have come from the way we've behaved. We've taken these actions that have driven those results and got me the success that I may or may not be enjoying in my life right now. Now, what we know about human behavior, as I alluded to earlier as well, is that our attitudes, how we think, determines how we act. So as a person thinketh, think and grow rich, I think therefore I am. We've known this for hundreds of years. Basic psychology studies written in the Bible, the Greek philosophers have all talked about how I think determines how I act. So, and of course, the other part of conditioning, space, repetition, and inputs. But from an objectives and key results point of view, so if success is about who we need to become as an individual. Sorry, I'm doing a little bit of a lag here. Okay, hopefully that's starting to look like. Right. So success is about who we need to become to have the things we need to have. And then, of course, the word behave is just be and have together. Sorry, I've got a little bit of tech lag at the moment. Right. So behave is just be and have together. So we go, well, who would I need to become to have the results I'd like to have? Well, how would I need to behave? And then what thinking would drive that behavior? When we look at this for an organization, if this is how we become who we are as human beings, well, then organizational behavior is just a bunch of humans all working together, right? So organizational behavior shouldn't be too much dissimilar from human behavior if organizations are just a bunch of human beings all working together to achieve a common goal. So this is where we really embodied the OKR methodology, because I wanted to find a way of thinking for our organization that would follow human behavior, one that made sense to people. And as we continue to evolve as human beings, because even though I've achieved this level of success, I can achieve more success and more success. I can continue to evolve. So, well, then what is success to an organization? And that's when I realized that success to an organization actually is the mission. It's the evolution of the business. Who do we need to evolve into to stay relevant in the hearts and minds of the people that we choose to serve? And that's what success is for the organization. And as we continue to evolve as human beings, so can our business. And then, how do we know what results we need to achieve? And this is where we slotted in OKRs. OKRs now fit in here. So objectives and key results make up for the results. So the objectives, and I'll make this really messy in a moment, slide in here as how we know we've become that organization. These are the things that we must have accomplished to show we've become the organization that we need to be. Then, of course, when you think about the behavior of your organization, well, this is where the tactic is. The tactics that we're going to take, right? The actions we're going to take to do that. And then if we look at our habits of thinking, that's our values, because our values tell us how to behave and make sure that we're making decisions in alignment with our purpose. So now what we have here is this thinking should make sure we drive the right behaviors, which should achieve these objectives and key results to fulfill the mission of the organization, which is linked to the future vision of our organization. Now, OKRs are really cool and powerful here, and we're going to get into the really nitty-gritty in just a moment. So we have a way to empower our people through our values. To drive the right behaviors and these objectives and key results. And I'll just get another color in here to show you this. Here's what's going to happen. So we're going to look at what our mission is. We go, okay, how would we know we've become that? We're going to look at what's the team that we must have? What's the brand that we must have? What are the clients that we must have? What's the financial performance we must have? What's the systems and operations we must have? Could be like our industry association or network that we're going to have. Could be anything. So normally we look at what's the team, what's the brand, what are the clients, what's the financial performance, what's the systems and operations we must have, and possibly something else to show that we've become that. And those then become your objectives. Then underneath each of those, we go, well, how would we know we've got that team? How would we know we have that brand? How would we know we have that clients? How do we know we have that financial performance? How do we know we have those systems and operations, and whatever the other one might be? And then you'll have your 3 key results for that. And then you do the same thing then again at 1 year. So if that's what we need in 3 years, what do we need to have in the next 1 year to be on target for that? And then we'll go, okay, great. And what are the results? And then every 90 days we go, hey, here's the 3 things. And then how are we going to do every 90 days? And now what you're starting to do is form a narrative for your organization, because words form a narrative. And then percentages, dollars, etc., and numbers tell the story. So your role as a leader is to create a narrative for your organization and a story that matches, to make sure that the narrative and the story match, that the words and numbers go together. Part of the alignment of culture and strategy in your organization. Right? So this is why we use OKRs, because it follows human behavior. It makes sense to us as human beings to use this. When it's done right, when you create it as a narrative and a story methodology of using OKRs, it makes it so much easier for people to see what the organization is going to look like. Rather than just a bunch of numbers on a sheet of paper, you're able to help people to form a picture in their mind of what this organization is going to look like. And if you know anything as human beings, seeing is believing. So if we create this, let's bring that up here. If we create this beautiful narrative and story for our organization, we're able to take our people on a journey, get them to see the future of the organization, like actually see it. Can you imagine what it look like when we have this team, when we become that, and we have this brand and these clients and this financial point? Can you imagine what that would look like? Oh, it would be amazing. Da, da, da. Can you imagine in the next 12 months then when we're here, what that would look like? Great. And here's how we would know. Imagine in the next 90 days when we've got this accomplished. What would that look like? And people can see it. When seeing is believing, our mind can see it, and it becomes a dominant picture in our mind. So when you apply basic psychology to OKRs now, guess what? I can see this thing here now. And when I open my eyes and I see current reality, my mind goes, oh, there's a big gap between what I'm seeing here and what I was just seeing in my mind a moment ago. Now, if we make the objectives and key results, the narrative and the story, the dominant picture in our organization, we're always reinforcing that picture. But then our mind's function is to keep us sane. It will give us all the energy and all the ideas and all the creativity to move towards this picture. And this is why the how-to is the easy part. Because people go, well, if I have the picture, well, we could do this, and we could do that, and we can be working on it. Great. All the ideas would come because your brain will kick in and go, that's the picture I want to see. It doesn't match the picture I see now, so how do I get to that picture? And this is why you, from a leadership point of view, is to articulate forcefully and clearly on every single occasion your narrative and your story of your organization, because it helps imprint the picture, the future state that we want, and gets people's minds engaged in coming up with the answers and the solutions. And this is why we talk about getting people involved in the work, involved in decisions about the work. None of this stuff is being taught to you in the books about how to implement OKRs in your organization. And this is so important to understand. This is where all the mistakes happen, when we take a new way of thinking and put it into our old way of doing. You need to understand this part of it, the basic psychology part of it, as to why it works so well, so you can actually leverage it and turn it into a very powerful strategy for your organization. And this is why human behavior is so important to understand, and organizational behavior, because when you implement it this way, you can help engage people's minds. Hopefully you've already engaged their heart through purpose. You engage their minds through how we're supposed to think about things here, and give them a wonderful narrative and a story that actually gets how their mind works to actually come up with the creative ideas to solve the problems. Because our minds are goal-seeking, problem-solving devices. We use them for too many other things, but if we kept it focused on that, your team will come up with all the answers. They'll find the answers. And this is why OKRs are so powerful for your organization. I'm not going to go too much into this next part here. I'm not sure why it's not coming up on the screen. Oh, it's because I'm getting the whiteboard. Okay, let me just stop sharing that there. I'm clicking the slides on the presentation. I'm wondering why it's not working, because I'm still on the whiteboard. Lisa would be laughing right now if she's watching this, because don't leave Dave in charge of the technology. So, and in the new world of work, I'm not going to go too deep in this, but it's really important to understand this is all part of it. We are now in the future of leadership, and the future of work is actually the now of leadership and the now of work. Everything we've been talking about in these worlds about what would be the future post-pandemic is now. All right. So don't think of this as the future of work or the future of leadership. This is the world of work and the world of leadership now. We need new organizational models. We have distributed working happening all around the world today. People working from their office, working from home, here in a co-working space, working out of a cafe. And it's not, I'm either at home or I'm at work. It's, hey, I could be at home in the morning, work in the afternoon. Tomorrow I could be spending the morning in a cafe. I could be going to a co-working space, spending the next 3 days in the office, whatever it might be, or out at a client site, you name it. People are going to be working from everywhere. We're in a world where people can work from everywhere. So we need to have a new organizational model that facilitates that. We need a network of teams, independent but interlinked, right? So we have this, what we call an ecosystem organizational model rather than an ecosystem, a hierarchical structure. We also need to make sure that we have coaches, not bosses. If you want to help your people become the best version of themselves to do their life's best work, you want to help your people become the best that they can be, you can't boss somebody into greatness, but you can coach people into greatness. So we need empowering and building and coaching happening. We need to help empower people to make smarter decisions. We need to help that and start creating more learning moments and coaching moments in our organizations. Once again, when we're delegating outcomes or objectives, not tasks, people are going to get more involved. They're going to be more empowered to make those decisions. You're going to create learning moments and coaching moments in your organization. Now, for those of you leaders out there who are afraid you may lose control, because a lot of leaders, want to control, or business owners, you can still have a sense of control, but you need to control the right things, not the wrong thing. When you're trying to control everything, you're in control of nothing, right? So please understand, when you're a control freak and you're trying to control everything, you're actually in control of nothing. What you want to do is control the frameworks, not the work inside the frames. So those frameworks we talked about, when you have your cultural framework, strategic, performance, and tactical frameworks in place, your job is to control the frameworks, not the work inside the frames. Your people can then freestyle inside the frameworks and do things. And then everything becomes a learning and coaching moment. So as your team are working through their objectives and key results, because they're now involved in the work, involved in decisions, they're coming up with the how-tos a lot more. You're engaging more of this. Guess what? You're going to create learning moments and coaching moments. And the more moments you allow, the more momentum your organization has. The more momentum it has, the faster it learns, the faster it evolves. And you're controlling the frameworks. So you're still in control, but you're controlling the right things. The other thing is obviously creating amazing employee experiences, which has never been more prevalent in the world than today, when the Great Resignation or realignment or whatever you want to call it has been happening. Is that we want to make sure that we have cultures driven with purpose. People want to have some sense of meaning to their lives. They've always wanted it, but now it's become very, very important. And creating work as a human experience where people want to go to work. They want to hang out with people. They want to do good work in this world. We need to make sure we're bringing that in. So once again, a great narrative, great story, helping people to see a future and be involved in it, have a sense of impact. That narrative and that story that your objectives and key results can help people to see is so powerful in this space. And then the last thing is about leveraging new technologies, is using tech to bring people together. Because if we have people spread out all over the place, well, then we need to actually have technology that brings people together, that also turns your people into superheroes, right? Technology that empowers your people to do the work that humans must do. And then if we have that, we can leverage technologies and connectivity where people can see what everybody's working on, even if we're not in the same place and we're spread throughout the world. This is why having a platform, we use Quantum in our organization. I highly recommend people look at that. They're our partners, and we use that so we can see. I can be here in Melbourne and I can see what's happening in our team anywhere in the world. I can even see all our clients, what's happening in their objectives and key results and how they're progressing in it as a window into there with the transparency. Remember transparency at the beginning. So we have that available too. So it's really important to understand that this is the new world of work, and this is why objectives and key results is very powerful in both those things. Because in a new organizational model, you still can control the frameworks where everything's happening and see what's progressing. And then people can be working together with the agility that we were talking about, the flexibility that's required to use OKRs, which were where OKRs sort of support. As coaching, not bossing, you're helping people achieve outcomes, not delegating tasks to them. It's a much more experiential thing for them because they're involved in a narrative and a story. And there's technology that can keep all transparent so everybody can see what everybody's working on. So you never change things by fighting the existing reality. If you want things to change, you need to build a new model that makes the old model obsolete. And so this is when we're talking about, not only reimagining your strategy, but reimagining how you think about strategy. You need to make a new model for your organization about how we do strategy, right? And that is by implementing a what must be accomplished strategy, not a how to accomplish strategy. Because what must be accomplished becomes mandatory. When and how we get there is actually arbitrary. It's really important to understand that in today's world, we can take our best guess at what's going to happen, but things move faster. So your organization may evolve quicker than you thought. It may evolve differently than you thought. But what we're very clear on is what must be accomplished. When and how we get there is arbitrary. So what we need to have in your organization here is the answer to these 6 questions. Why does our business exist? We talked about that in sense of purpose. What is our unique thinking in terms of our values? What does our world look like in terms of the vision? Who do we need to become to start creating that world? That's your mission. Then this is where OKRs come in, is the objectives are what must be accomplished. What is the team objective? What is the client objective, the brand objective, the financial performance, the systems and operations, and the other, what might be something else. And then how will we measure to show that we've accomplished that thing? Not how will we do it, but how will we measure it? And you get those things established for your organization, because now you've gone from everyone knows why we come to work in the morning. Everyone knows how we think around here. You're not telling people what to think, but here's how we think around here, so I can be empowered to make smarter decisions. I know the impact of the long-term impact of the work that we're doing. I know the business that we're building together. I know what team we have to have, the brand, clients, financial performance, systems, operations that we have to have, and I know how we're measuring it. Can you imagine when people can see that future of the organization? They'll be able to see themselves having a future in that organization. And then what you end up doing is you're creating a clear narrative. So you have a narrative in terms of your cultural in your organization. Let me make this bigger for you here. So you'll have a clear narrative for your organization in terms of our purpose, our values, our vision, and our mission. And then you'll develop a blueprint that is continually refreshed, because the moving part is mission is where the evolution happens. So when you get your purpose right, your values right, the vision right, vision's a long way out there, but your purpose and values shouldn't change too much if you have them right. And then your vision is fairly way out there, so that's a long-term thing. But mission is where it constantly keeps moving. So as you keep moving forward and evolving and steadily and progressively increasing your capabilities and your capacity for greatness, you'll have a blueprint that's consistently refreshed. You'll also have a cultural state that you're going to, working backwards, you're reverse engineering your organization. When we're imagining an organization that does not yet exist, we're going to be able to go, great, this is the business we must evolve into to stay relevant. This is the business this is the new model that will make our old model obsolete. This is how we're going to disrupt our own business before someone else comes along and does it for us. And then we can reverse engineer that. And then steadily and progressively, we bring that new organization into reality. And so, as I've alluded to, words form the narrative and numbers tell the story. Okay, you need to start creating a really epic narrative for your business that people go, wow, this is amazing. And then a story to back up that narrative. This will be one of the most powerful things you can do in your organization. And this is why OKRs are so important, because they are set up in a way that the objective forms the narrative and the metrics forms the story. Right? So you have the magic and the science, you have the heart and the head involved in everything that you're doing. And human beings, we love stories. It's that simple. And we see in pictures. So the story that we hear and think, we start to see a picture in our mind. We have a movie that plays in our head when we read a book. And this is why actually it's a fascinating phenomenon. When most people read the book and then they go watch the movie, they prefer the book, because the book, they created their own movie. They're looking at somebody else's movie of the book, not the one that they saw in their head. That's why the movie sometimes isn't as exciting as the one as reading the book. You find a lot of people who say, "Oh, I prefer the book over the movie." Well, that's because you created the movie in your head about the book, and it didn't match the movie that you watched on the big screen, because that was somebody else's interpretation of it. Now, this is an important one. Show me the money. People, if anyone remember the Jerry Maguire effect, that's what I call Jerry Maguire effect. When he left the business, he created a whole new mission or a mantra for the organization. He wanted to show the people that he cared about his clients. And he got fired for that because they were all about making the money. And then he went on to create this amazing relationship with his one client, and built this beautiful thing. And he created this new narrative and new story and how he was going to build this organization. And then Renee Zellweger to Tom Cruise, then she bought into his vision. She could see that future and wanted to be a part of that future. So she left to come across to his organization. And of course, Hollywood style movie, everything happened. But in the end, he built this amazing organization that caused all the other people to start looking at there going, well, how come we don't have that relationship that they have? Because the other agents were still doing it the way it was always done. And he created a new model that made the old model obsolete. And people are realizing, wow, that's a really powerful way to do business. So what is your, when you think about your clients and you're building your organization in the future, he could see the future of it. He could see what they were doing to their clients and how they were going to become irrelevant in times. So he decided to create something that would make the way we do current agents, sports agents, irrelevant. And at the end of the movie, of course, that's where it all happened. So this is really important for you in your organization. Where's your show me the money moment? How are you going to find that client that you want to be of service to into the future and build your organization around that? Now, here's an example of what the roadmap looks like when you start to map out your own business evolution roadmap in there, and you actually start to have your objectives and key results in place. These are examples of different things from clients. There's no sequence to these in terms of whose they are or anything like that, but just as an example. So once you know why your business exists, and then you have your values clearly defined, the 4 to 6 core values and what they mean, so people understand here's how we think around here, and you've got your world that you want to impact, that you want to have, and then the business you need to build to do it. Your objectives then can come in here and go, well, here's who we need to become then to start creating that. Here's our mission. And then we go, what's the team we must have? What's the brand we must have? What are the clients we must have? What's the thriving business, in this case, or the business performance we must have? What are the systems and operations and industry relationships we must have? And then if you look in here, you go, well, what are the 3 things that we should be measuring to show that we have that team? And this is an evolution-based strategy, so please understand, as you look at this here, we get the measurements in place, we go, here's what must be accomplished and how we would measure it. We may not have the mechanisms in place in right now to measure these things, but we know this is what needs to be measured. Then we look down here and to go 12 months from now, if that's the team we need in 3 years, what's the team we need in 12 months? Because remember, this is an evolution process. And it's really important to understand that as your business seeks to evolve, well, hang on, if we want this team in 3 years, what's the team we need in the next 12 months? And then what do we need to do in the next 90 days to start moving us towards that team, to have that team in 3 years? Because it's the steady, progressive increase of our capabilities and our capacity for greatness. And this is where OKRs start to build this, not only the big narrative, but it starts to break it down chapter by chapter and how we're going to evolve this organization when they're done right. And then these are just some more examples here. I'll just get through. So the important part about that, as you start to map through your 3-year, your 1-year narrative of your business, please remember this isn't a how to accomplish strategy. It's a what must be accomplished strategy. Okay? And it doesn't even necessarily have to say who, but what we want to do is we want to get people involved in the work, involved in decisions about the work. We want to delegate outcomes, not tasks. All these things we talk about is because we're going to develop a what must be accomplished strategy. We're going to work out the how to along the way together. And so this is one of the biggest shifts in thinking. You can't take your OKR strategy and put it into here's how we're going to do the business and tell people here's how to achieve these goals, and here's how we're going to do this, and here's how we're going to do that. No, what we have to go is here's OKRs and here's what must be accomplished and how we're going to measure it. Let's work out together how we're going to do it. Getting people involved in the work, involved in decisions about the work. So it's really important to understand that and remember this point, that what must be accomplished is mandatory, when and how we get there is arbitrary. And what you end up developing for your organization then is this magnificent thing here, which is a decision-making filter. Right? Can you imagine when you have a decision-making filter built for your organization, where every single person in your organization now can understand how we make decisions around here? Firstly, does it serve our purpose? Yes or no? If not, send it out. Does it reject any of our values? Yes or no? If it rejects our values, send it out. Will it take us towards our vision? Yes or no? Will it help us become the organization we need to be, fulfill our mission? Yes or no? And then once it passes the narrative part, then it can get into the story part of your business. Okay, well, then who would need to be involved in this? What's the cost benefit analysis to this? Who and what would need to be involved in executing on this? And the last part is, when should we do this? Because now if we know what 3 years looks like, we know what 12 months looks like, we know what we're working on 90 days, we can go, hey, this is a phenomenal idea, pass through all the narrative and the story of our business, but when, it's probably something we need to look at next quarter or in the next 12 months. Great, we can then put it to those spaces, and guess what? We can stay focused on what matters most, what we're working on right now, because we can make a decision now about what to say no to. And this is a very important thing to understand, and this is what a lot of people don't appreciate about decision-making. Decision-making, once you have your OKRs and everything set up in your organization, the power of it is, incision, when you think if you're a surgeon and you're doing an incision, that is to cut into. A decision is to cut off or cut out. So when we're making a decision, it should be helping us understand what to say no to, because we should already be very clear what to say yes to. So when we have the 3 core objectives that we're working on and the key results for those things, we're focused on what matters most. Okay, we know what matters most to evolve the organization to stay relevant and to move us towards the 12-month and the 3-year. Now, if something else comes along and go, hey, this is really cool and really important, is it more important than the 3 things that we've already agreed to? Because we need to make a decision. So what are we going to say no to? Because we should already know what to say yes to. We should be saying yes to these things, but is this thing more important than one of those? And if it is, then what are we going to say no to in here to bring that one in? Decision making is about learning what to say no to, because you should already know what to say yes to. Let's bring this back up. So now you'll have a decision-making filter, which once again takes your narrative and your story for your team to be empowered to make smarter decisions. So my question to you here at the end, as we get close to the end of this, is, are you waiting for a new business to rub your nose in a future you are destined to own? Are you going to evolve your organization to stay relevant in the hearts and minds of the people that you choose to serve? Are you going to get all your people engaged and empowered and inspired and have an evolution strategy for your organization so that people can see the future of their organization and see themselves having a future in the organization? That way you can attract the best talent to your organization because they're buying into the narrative and the story that you're able to tell because you're using OKRs as the methodology in your organization. All right, or you just have a bunch of goals and go, hey, here's our objectives and key results, and they're done as an old goal setting style. So it's just a fancy new way for doing the old thing that you were doing. It's what we would call mutton dressed up as a lamb, right? It's like you're just putting something, a fascia on an old building. You haven't changed anything. You're just making it look a little bit different from the outside. But deep down, once you get inside the doors, it's the same thing. So it's really important to understand, and like this is for anybody watching this, please. We challenge organizations to evolve and stay relevant. Build the organization that will put you out of business before somebody else does it for you. Because don't sit there in 3 years' time and go, oh, we had that idea and now somebody else is doing it. Now our business is compromised. That's just waiting for a new business to rub your nose in a business you were destined to own, but you chose not to do it. You chose not to build your organization in a way where you could engage your people and get them to be more involved in the work and involved in decisions about the work. You did not capture the spirit of your people. You did not harness the talent and ability that's laying dormant in your organization because you kept doing things the way you've always done them. You can reimagine your strategy, but you must reimagine the way you think about strategy. And this is why OKRs are so magic. And then the last thing you really need to do then is look at fast execution. How can we execute at a far greater rate than we ever have before? And our fast execution methodology that we use with our client is very simple. F is for focus. And that's an innate focus on what matters most. And that's the 90-day objectives and the key results that we're working on. A is for accountability. So it's a systematic approach to accountability. As I said, it's an accountability system for your organization. And then S is for simple. It's about a simple tactical plan. Step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, and each of the key results that the team have created their action plans on how they're going to achieve those results. And then T is for transparency. Having a platform or whatever where everybody can see what everybody's working on, so nobody needs to hide, nobody feels the need to hide, and that we have a culture, of course, where people are lifting each other up, and someone can put their hand up and saying, I'm struggling with my OKR or this particular key result, and feel safe to be able to put their hand up and go, I need help. And we should be, yeah, awesome, how can we help you? So when you have focus, accountability, simplicity, and transparency, you will execute at a far greater rate than you ever have before. And then that's how you start actually busting the myth that execution is hard and actually getting things accomplished and actually bringing your narrative and story to life. So that is the magic and science of OKRs. Everything that you wanted to know about OKRs that John Doerr and Andy Grove didn't tell you. The important things to understand that you can't take this new way of thinking and just put it into your old way of doing. If anybody has any questions, please feel free to drop them in the comments. If you watch this after the fact, please do, and drop your comments in and I'll respond to all of them. We'd really love your feedback on that and what you learned, what you found out that you didn't know before. If you have questions challenging the way that we think about this, I'd love to hear it. If you've used OKRs, what was your experience? If you're using them now, what's your experience? I'd really like to help people out to understand this. So thank you very much for watching this. I really appreciate your time and attention. And once again, please ask the questions that you have because we'd love to answer them for you.